The Boston Celtics acquired Evan Fournier at last year's NBA trade deadline and are now looking to retain him as an unrestricted free agent this summer. But contract talks within the two seem to be very different. Evan Fournier looking for much more money than Boston are potentially willing to give him. Evan Fournier is coming off of a 5-year deal worth $17 million a year from Orlando and is looking for a similar type of salary, if not a little bit more, moving into this year's offseason. I think he'll end up settling for less, and it'll be closer to 15. The point being that Boston don't seem to be willing to pay him that much. They didn't get enough production from him last year for them to want to give him that much. And they also just acquired Josh Richardson via trade. And so if they can get him back as a sixth man, I'm sure they'd love to bring him back because they do need more depth. Having that scoring option off of the bench is something that they need. But after acquiring Josh Richardson, I don't think it was the priority anymore to acquire Evan Fournier. I think he realizes that, and he probably wants to move elsewhere. And so, with that being said, we're going to talk about what type of money could Evan Fournier expect to get summer, and what are some of the teams that he could end up seeing himself at by the end of NBA free agency. So, as I mentioned, Evan Fournier is probably going to get in that 15 to 17 million range, similar to what he got on his last contract. And for me, he projects best as a sixth man. I know he probably wants to start. He started a lot in Orlando. He started in Boston for a good portion due to injuries as well. And that might be one of the reasons why he doesn't want to return, rumored at least, to Boston. But I think he is best as a sixth man. I think he would work very well in a sixth man role. But let's talk about some of the teams that could be interested in him as a starter or as a sixth man. One of the teams that definitely makes sense to me from a salary cap standpoint and a fit standpoint is the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks have a lot of salary cap space. They are looking for someone in that 2-3 spot to play alongside RJ Barrett. They might bring back Reggie Bullock. They might bring in someone else. They also are interested in a point guard. And so Evan Fournier, whether that be as a sixth man to replace Derrick Rose or as a starter in that lineup alongside RJ Barrett and whoever they bring in at point guard, is something that they could definitely use moving into this season. Outside of that, it is a little bit more murky as far as what teams are going to be interested in him, because he's not going to be one of those players that bad teams are interested in, but there's also not a lot of really good teams that have the cap space or the need to bring in someone of his caliber. If you look in the Eastern Conference, the 76ers, if they can alleviate some cap space, if some potential Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris trades, then that could definitely happen, but until then, no. Brooklyn, of course, no. Milwaukee, of course, no. The Hawks are up against the cap. Miami are. There's not many options across those top teams. And you can say the same thing about most teams in the Western Conference, but I'd say probably one of the more likely options for him in the Western Conference would be the Dallas Mavericks. Assuming that they can make some more trades this summer, they are going to have a little bit of cap space, especially if they move on from Kristaps Porzingis at some point in time. And so having a running mate who can give a little bit more scoring option and alleviate some of the scoring pressure from Luka Doncic is something that the Dallas Mavericks would like to do. They had it in Seth Curry, they got rid of it, and now they're looking to replace Josh Richardson to get that scoring back, and Evan Fournier could definitely be someone who could fill in and do that job. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of teams competing for Evan Fournier's services this summer. I don't think there's going to be a ton of teams that are willing to give him 15, 17, 18 million. Especially on a team that, like I said, there's probably not going to be a lot of bad teams that are signing up to want Evan Fournier, because Evan Fournier is not a young player anymore. He's not someone that you're bringing in for your future. He is now 28 years of age. He will be around 29 near the beginning of the start of the season, and you're going to be signing him until he is 33 or 34, most likely, on a 4 or 5 year deal. If you're Boston, I think Boston can offer him a 5-year deal. But outside of that, everyone's a 4-year deal offering him till he's 33. So I think it's likely he goes on a decent team. I'm not saying a contender, but a decent team. Mavericks or the Knicks are probably the most likely options if Boston don't retain him. But that's probably the destinations for Fournier. I would expect it in around 15 to 17 million. There are some rumors that it could get as high as 20 million a year, but I don't think he's going to get that. I don't think there's enough competition or want for Evan Fournier. That is my thoughts on the Evan Fournier rumors over the last couple of days and where I think he will end up landing and for how much through free agency, as we are now only 4 or 5 hours away from free agency as of the recording of this video. And so with that being said, I will be sure to keep you guys posted on all of the free agency signings that go down tonight over the next few days and weeks on this channel. So be sure to like if you did enjoy the video and subscribe to the channel for all of the updates on NBA free agency as we move into a very fun part of the NBA schedule. I'll also be keeping you up to date on all of the trades, of course, that happen throughout this period. With that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.